Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Spoilers, Recap, and Results. I am your host as always here, PCJ, the Pop Culture Junkie. We are just minutes removed from this year's WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Yowie wowie. Just when you think WWE is going to put their thinking caps on, get their stuff together, get their act together, and realize, hey, we actually have a chance to put on great shows, great matches, great storylines, and actually win against competition. Okay, even though WWE refuses to acknowledge that they're in competition with anybody, they are. There's other competition. There's been competition regardless of the level of competition you want to look at, whether it's Ring of Honor, TNA, WCW, ECW back in the day. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, there's always been competition. There's always a chance for any company, no matter how small, indie, or global they are, you have a shot. You have a shot at being a competition for anybody. Just put on a good product. We now have AEW, of course, and they have their own show weekly. They have their own pay-per-views they'll be putting out, and WWE refuses to acknowledge them as a competition, publicly. But we know they're worried. They should be. So we have seen changes made, but wow, they just continue to get in front of themselves, and they painted themselves into a corner. They backed themselves into a corner, and they should have just pulled the trigger on a couple of things tonight, but they, again, just refuse to move forward. So let's get into the actual whole spoiler recap results of the show, and we'll just go over all the matches. There's a lot to go over. So starting off with the kickoff, we have the kickoff panel with Sam Roberts, Charlie Caruso. It's hosted by the coach, and then Booker T's there as well. Now, at the beginning, we see the stage, and it is a different stage, mostly made up of LED screens, just like most of their stuff is, but it did not look the same as Raw or SmackDown, so that was a pleasant surprise. All right, so we get the usual shenanigans of predictions and thoughts on tonight's show. We'll go into our first matchup, which is Natalya versus Lacey Evans. This was one of the matches on Twitter. They announced half hour before the show started. They said, hey, breaking news, here's like 7 matches that we didn't have any time to plug or promote or build. We're just going to throw these on the card at last minute, because there was only 3 matches announced prior to the show. They had 3 matches. They had the 2 Hell in a Cell matches, and they had the SmackDown Women's Title, Bayley versus Charlotte. That was like the last one they threw on at the last minute. But they had the 2 Hell in a Cell matches, and that was it. We didn't have anything else to go on as far as what to expect of this show. So our opening matchup was Natalya versus Lacey Evans. Evans goes for a moonsault, but Natalya rolls out of the way and then applies the sharpshooter, and Lacey Evans tapped immediately before Natalya was even fully seated in the sharpshooter position. So afterwards, Natalya is standing up, celebrating. Lacey gets to her feet, and just then Natalya hits a woman's right of her own, knocking out Lacey, and runs up the ramp celebrating. Is Natalya a heel now? Because that was kind of a heel tactic there, but she just clocked her and runs up the ramp celebrating. We then go to the opening video package for the show, which was pretty good. It was kind of basic, but good. And it kind of had the movie Crow feeling to it. There was a young female narration throughout the opening package. That was kind of nice, though. So starting off our first match was the Raw Women's Title Hell in a Cell match. Becky Lynch defending against Sasha Banks. At the beginning, Sasha attacked Becky as the cell was being lowered and throws Lynch face first into the cage. They end up outside of the cage after it hits the ground, so they're fighting outside the cell before the match has even started. They finally make it inside the cell and in the ring to begin the match officially. Becky then grabs the chain used to lock the cell door and strikes Sasha with it repeatedly. Becky tosses a table into the ring, then pulls a ladder out just as Sasha is coming at her with the chair. But Sasha leans the ladder up against the cell wall, but Becky strikes her with the chair, and it looks like it got Sasha right in the face. A lot of that stuff tonight. A lot of stuff happening in the face. We'll get to that later. So Becky is standing outside the ring, and Sasha on the apron runs at Becky with double knee attack, and Becky goes back first into the ladder that was leaning against the cell wall. That was a good spot. Sasha now has Becky seated on a steel chair facing the corner, so she gets on the second turnbuckle and delivers a double knee attack to Becky into a pinfall attempt, but Becky kicks at it too. Becky then unfolds a steel chair and sticks the legs into the side of the cell wall, then brings 2 more chairs into the ring and tries to attack Becky. Becky goes for a quick roll-up for a 2 count, then backspin kicks the chair into Sasha's sternum. Becky drop kicks Sasha off the ring apron into the cell wall, then hits a Bexploder into the cell wall on Sasha. Now there's a steel chair that was unfolded and laying face down, and Becky delivers a drop toe hold to Sasha face first, followed by another for a quick 2-fall pin attempt. Becky Lynch then goes up to the top turnbuckle, and Sasha throws a chair at her, but Becky catches it, throwing it back at Sasha, then follows it up with a drop kick to the chair into Sasha's face. Another chair shot to the face. The crowd then starts chanting dueling Becky and Sasha chants. Just then, Sasha grabs a kendo stick from under the ring and immediately wails on Becky. Sasha pulls out another kendo stick and sticks that one in the corner of the cell, followed by the first stick. Sasha then tries to Irish whip Becky into the kendo sticks, but Becky reverses it and throws Sasha face first into both kendo sticks. Becky Lynch then takes one of the steel chairs, stacks it on top of the kendo sticks. She grabs a third kendo stick and slides it underneath there to properly hold the chair. Becky then puts Sasha seated on the chair in the corner of the cell. Becky gets on the ring apron and does the Catholic up and down, left to right, and then runs into Sasha with a flying drop kick. That was a nice move. The crowd then begins chanting, "Holy shit, holy shit." Becky then rolls Sasha back into the ring, climbs up to the top turnbuckle, and delivers a drop kick for another quick fall, but it is a 2 count again. Becky then sets up the table that had been tossed in the ring earlier. She puts it in the corner, but Sasha hits a backstabber to Lynch out of nowhere. Sasha then puts Becky on the top turnbuckle in front of the table. She's attempting a superplex, but Becky powers out. She attempts a powerbomb, but Sasha is able to kick her away. Sasha then turns and jumps again with the double knee attack, putting Becky through the table, goes for the pin, but again only gets 2. Sasha grabs another kendo stick and applies a crossface to Becky with that, but Becky manages to crawl to the outside of the ring and grabs the kendo stick. She immediately begins wailing on Sasha across her back and her shoulders. She then drags Sasha around the cell, but Sasha Irish whips Becky into the steel chair that had been stuck into the side of the cell earlier. As Becky Lynch is laid out in the middle of the ring, Sasha grabs multiple steel chairs, at least a dozen or more, throws them all inside the ring. Sasha gets back in the ring. She smashes a steel chair multiple times over Becky's chest and almost looked like she got her in the face again. Becky, now laid out in the middle of the ring with steel chairs all around her. Sasha gets up on the turnbuckle, motions to the crowd that she's about to win the title. She turns around and Becky smacks her with a steel chair. Becky then climbs up and delivers a Bexploder to Sasha, who lands on the pile of chairs. Becky Lynch then applies the disarmer and Sasha taps out. Very good match, lots of weapon used, and it was a big surprise that they went as big as they did for the opening match and for the Hell in a Cell. I definitely think they raised the bar and set the bar for the rest of the night. So while Becky is celebrating inside the ring, we see Sasha standing at the top of the ramp looking very unhappy, possibly going to throw another hissy fit, looks very sad. Our next matchup, we have Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Roman comes out first, good mix of boos already because we know the boos are coming back, and lots of pyro for Roman as he punches the floor. Then they announce, as Roman is being introduced, that this is going to be a tornado tag match, which means anything goes. So obviously they know we got to make sure we have Roman in a match where he can use weapons, so we don't have to worry about a wrestling match, and they can rely on Spotfest to make this match at all interesting. There was one moment where Roman delivered a drive-by to Rowan, and immediately after that, Harper delivered a suicide dive onto Roman. And at the time, they were on the side of the ring where the announce tables were, and Harper looked like he landed face first on the corner of the middle of the announce table. He immediately was grabbing his right eye or his temple, not sure exactly where he landed, but it seemed like it hit really hard. Harper and Rowan then take all the tops off of the announce tables, all 3 of them. Harper goes for a powerbomb on the announce table while standing on it. But Daniel Bryan is able to turn it into a Hurricane Rana, and during this confusion, Rowan is distracted, and as he turns, he sees Reigns running across the first 2 announce tables, and he spears Rowan into the 3rd one. Harper then delivers 2 back suplexes to Bryan, but as he's trying for the 3rd one, Bryan flips over him. Harper turns and gets a Superman punch from Roman. Then Daniel Bryan hits a running knee, and finally Roman hits a spear to get the pin and win. Thank God they turned this match into a tornado tag match, because otherwise it would have just been complete garbage. Just another excuse to have Roman look good in a Spotfest type match, but very, very underwhelming. But by winning this matchup, I'm sure by next week we're going to see Bryan and Roman challenge for the tag titles on SmackDown. So after the match, Daniel extends his hand to Roman to shake, but as Roman reaches, Bryan pulls back. Instead, Bryan wants a hug, so Roman and Bryan hug it out, shake hands, and then they leave. Next up, we go backstage, and Charlie Caruso interviews Seth Rollins. He says he has never faced anyone like Bray Wyatt, and this will be his greatest test tonight. Next match, we have Ali versus Randy Orton. This is another last-minute thrown-on match. blah, blah, blah. Ali jumps into an RKO, and again, overrated Orton goes over young talent that should be pushed. Michael Cole then announces that due to the events from the first matchup earlier tonight between Natalya and Lacey Evans, they will have a rematch on Raw, but this will be a last woman standing match. Next up, we have the women's tag title match, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane. The Kabuki Warriors come out to a combination of both their entrance music being played, one after the other. They really need to give them an original entrance theme. It's they play like 2 minutes of Asuka, then 2 minutes of Kairi, then back and forth. Just eh. But also, they were not accompanied by Paige, so I don't know if she's still their manager or what. So Alexa hits Kairi Sane with a flip on the outside of the ring. At the same time, Asuka hits the green mist into Nikki Cross, followed by a kick to the head for the pin, and your new women's tag team champions, Asuka and Kairi Sane. So the Kabuki Warriors are tag team champions. Okay. Next match, we have a 6-man tag match. Also, this was added on the last minute. This is the OC of Gallows and Anderson and AJ Styles versus War Raiders and a mystery partner, whom is Braun Strowman. The match ends in a DQ when the OC gang up on Braun and the referee loses control of the match. The War Raiders afterwards hit a double suicide dive onto Gallows and Anderson to the outside of the ring. AJ is attempting a phenomenal forearm, but Braun punches him midair, and then he just poses with his fist up, and the commentary team says, Braun has just sent a message to Tyson Fury, the boxer that they had a little scuffle with on SmackDown. But this is someone who's not even an employee of the wrestling company. Why do we need this continued on? I don't know. But then they announced that Tyson Fury is going to be at Raw tomorrow. So all this was done just to further move that storyline that we're not really wanting. Backstage, we get a hype segment with the Street Profits. And all of a sudden, in runs Tamina, who pins R-Truth to win the 24/7 title. She gets up, punches Tyler Breeze, and then runs off. Next match, we get King Baron Corbin versus Chad Gable. Again. Again. Why? So before the match, Corbin gets on the mic and he cuts a whole bunch of short jokes on Gable, which got zero reaction from the audience. Now, yes, they're supposed to be eye-rolling and you shouldn't laugh along with a heel, but these were just terrible jokes that fell on complete deaf ears. So in the end, Corbin, who was dominating Chad Gable the entire time, goes outside the ring to get his King Scepter. He attempts to hit Gable with it, but Gable ducks and is able to roll up Corbin for a quick 3 count, and he defeats the King. Yeah. Next up, we have the SmackDown Women's title match, Bayley defending against Charlotte Flair. So after they both make their entrance, we see over by the four announce tables that Tamina, the new 24/7 champion, is being chased by R-Truth. Funaki stands up between them, and Truth sets up to do the Karate Kid crane kick. Tamina then shoves Funaki into R-Truth, but Carmella sneaks up from behind and delivers a super kick to Tamina and tells Truth to pin her to win back the title instead of going for the pin herself. Okay. Then we go back to the ring for the women's title match. So Bayley goes for a pin, but the ref catches her using the ropes for leverage. Charlotte then applies the figure 8, and Bayley taps. A lot of the audience looked unenthusiastic about this. But now Charlotte is a 10-time champion. Yes, Charlotte has been on the main roster for less than 5 years, and she has won a women's championship 10 times. What's the point of winning them that many times, other than they want her to have multiple title reigns like her daddy? But who cares? I mean, it took Ric Flair a few decades to get these kinds of accomplishments. But you're going to give her multiple wins, title runs, or title... They're not even title reigns, because most of the time she carries the belt for like a week and loses it. There was that period where her and Sasha traded the belt for, like 3-4 weeks in a row. Just doesn't make any sense. So Bayley then is sitting outside the ring at the bottom of the ramp looking very upset, same as how Sasha looked earlier when she lost. Bayley starts to cry as the audience could be heard chanting, na 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 na, na 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 na, hey, 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 etc. But even though it's like, this wasn't a retirement match, I don't know where she's going. But to me, this was not as good as their Rumble 2017 match, as this one was very predictable. It was very predictable that Charlotte was going to win. And personally, I'm just tired of Charlotte being in the title picture. We go backstage, we see Chad Gable walking, and Kayla Braxton runs up and says, "Excuse me, shorty." And Gable says, "Hey, this match was more important than anything else he has ever achieved." You have won championship title belts before, right? Gable then says, "Why don't you go find Baron and ask him if it felt or how it felt to come up short tonight?" Ha ha. And just then Corbin jumps Gable and throws him through the stairwell door and just leaves him laying there. So yeah, this isn't over, I guess. All right, we're at the main event. Hell in a Cell Universal title match. Seth Rollins defending against The Fiend. So as Rollins makes his entrance, the cage is already lowered. And Rollins comes out and he gets pyro with his entrance, which was good. Next, all the lights and everything start shutting down, just like whenever The Fiend will attack. And we get the actual proper entrance with the let him in on the Titantron. And the spotlight shows up on the ramp, and here comes The Fiend carrying the severed head lantern, which was awesome. I thought they were going to get rid of that, but I'm so glad they still have that. So I guess special occasions, they'll still make sure to have that, because we haven't seen it since his first match against Balor. So they lock the door to the cell, but the lights stay off, and just red lights appear over the ring. And if you've ever played Nintendo Virtual Boy in the 90s, that's exactly what it looked like. This entire match was just red and black light. So the match begins, and they start off just a little bit of physical action in the ring. Rollins gets a kendo stick out from under the ring and strikes The Fiend with it a couple times. Completely no-selling it, though. The Fiend then strikes Rollins a few times into the corner and kicks the stick to the outside. Rollins goes for an aerial maneuver off the top rope, but The Fiend catches him into a slam. They fight outside the ring, and The Fiend throws Rollins into the cell wall, then into the steel steps. They fight outside the ring, and Fiend throws Rollins into the cell wall, then into the steel steps. Rollins then picks up the steel steps and drives them into The Fiend multiple times, knocking him to the ground. Rollins then goes under the ring and pulls out a table. He tosses the table into the ring, then delivers multiple suicide dives to The Fiend to the outside. He then rolls The Fiend into the steel steps. Seth gets a table set up in the ring and goes for a third suicide dive, but The Fiend catches him and delivers Sister Abigail into the side of the cell. Yowie wowie chants begin from the crowd. The Fiend tried to slam Rollins through the table, but Rollins fights back and hits a super kick that puts The Fiend onto the table. Rollins goes to the top rope and delivers a frog splash, putting The Fiend through the table. Rollins then hits a kick to the stomach, followed by a stomp, but The Fiend completely no-sells, standing right up. Rollins then hits another kick to the stomach, followed by another stomp, but The Fiend catches him and delivers Sister Abigail, goes for the pin, but Rollins is able to kick out at 2. The Fiend then does a neck snap to Rollins, who rolls out of the ring, and pretty much that should have been the end of the match. You just broke his neck, according to that move. The Fiend then goes underneath the ring, and he pulls out a giant, oversized Harley Quinn-style mallet. He shoves the mallet into Rollins' stomach, pressing him firmly against the cell wall. Rollins delivers a super kick 3 times, bringing The Fiend down to his knee, then hits the curb stomp on The Fiend on the mallet. They get back in the ring. Rollins hits a flying knee. He hits a second one, third one, but The Fiend is still standing. Rollins then hits a super kick, followed by a stomp. He hits a second stomp in a row, a third stomp in a row, and the crowd is booing very loudly, thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to have Rollins pin The Fiend. Seth then hits a pedigree, and he goes for the pin, but The Fiend kicks out immediately. Rollins then hits a kick to the face, followed by 5 stomps. Seth then pulls out a steel chair from underneath the ring. Seth, standing over the lifeless body of The Fiend, delivers a steel chair shot directly to the face. Goes for the pin, but The Fiend kicks out at 1. Rollins then brings in a ladder. He lays the steel chair over the face of The Fiend, hits the chair with the top of the ladder, goes for a pin, gets a 2 count. Seth then goes back outside and finds a toolbox, which he brings into the ring. He lays the ladder and steel chair between the rungs of the ladder, all on top of The Fiend. He then slams the toolbox onto the ladder multiple times. The tools come flying out all over the place, and he keeps hitting the toolbox more and more. The crowd is booing even more because they think this is going to be a ridiculous ending. Get ready, because it is. Seth then lays the toolbox on top of the ladder and chair, and now the whole time that The Fiend is just laying there with all this stuff on top of him, Seth goes back outside the ring to look underneath it for more stuff. Now he pulls out a sledgehammer. So after all this stuff that he's done, he gets back in the ring. He's about to hit the sledgehammer on top of all the stuff that's already laying on top of The Fiend. And now the ref decides to get in front of Rollins and say, no, you're going too far. You're going to kill him. Even though this is Hell in a Cell, where we've seen Mick Foley thrown off of the cell more than once, We've seen Shawn Michaels a bloody mess being thrown into the cell wall, thrown off the side of the cell. We've seen Brock Lesnar and Undertaker in a bloody battle in the cell years and years ago. This is going too far. But Rollins goes ahead and spikes the sledgehammer onto the Fiend. Basically, he hit the ladder and the chair, everything that's on top of the Fiend. And as soon as he does that, the referee calls for the bell, doesn't do anything else. The arena is pissed. Audience is booing and just upset, big time. The cage immediately raises, and multiple referees run in, and they bring a stretcher. Rollins then stands over the Fiend, and all of a sudden the Fiend gets up, puts the mandible claw on him, and begins attacking outside the ring. He hits Sister Abigail on the arena floor. The crowd begins chanting, "Restart the match! Restart the match!" The Fiend then pulls the protective cover off of the arena floor at the bottom of the ramp. And at this point, the audience is chanting AEW as the Fiend hits a Sister Abigail on the exposed concrete. Then it looks like Rollins is spitting up a lot of fake blood as the Fiend applies the mandible claw again. Then, while he's applying the mandible claw, we get the screeching Fiend music, and the lights go dark. The lights come back on at the top of the stage with just a spotlight on the Fiend, who's looking back over his shoulder towards the ring. And the lights go out again. We get the Fiend laughter for a very long time, and then the show goes off the air. And that's it. So they ended Hell in a Cell Universal title by disqualification. It's Hell in a Cell. Now here's the thing. If you follow WWE on Twitter, there was a tweet they posted just the other day where they said, "Hey, how do you think Hell in a Cell is going to end? Pinfall, submission, disqualification." Why would they send that tweet out if they weren't going to go that route? I'm curious to go back into Twitter and look and see what was the results of that. If that poll is still up there, I'm going to look real quick while we're still talking on here. I want to see if they have that on there and what was the results. Because did they base the decision on how they were going to end this match on what the results of that poll were? Let me see if I can go back in time on the Twitter feed here. But yeah, that was the end of the pay-per-view. That was the end of the final match. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, again, they painted themselves into a corner. They were totally backed into a corner. They had nothing else that they could do except that if they weren't going to put the title on the Fiend. But why rush this? The original plans, if you don't know, they were talking about the Fiend versus Rollins at WrestleMania, and then obviously the Fiend would win then. And really, this is like the third match that Bray Wyatt has had as the Fiend character, so why do this so soon? If you're not happy with Rollins' title run, they only have themselves to blame for that. But at the same time, if that's your reason for it, okay, then just put the belt on the Fiend and pull the trigger. But I just think it's ridiculous, and I know a lot of people are upset. It's trending all over Twitter right now. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now trying to find that poll to see if they have the results on here. Maybe they're not posted yet, or maybe that poll didn't end. I don't know. We'll see. They could have deleted it by now too. But share with me in the comments section, what did you think of the full recap there? What do you think of their decision to go that route? I think it was completely ridiculous. It made no sense. And yeah, I'm scrolling through here. I don't see it in the feed anywhere. So they probably deleted that. They probably took the poll to see how many people were going to be pissed off or okay with a disqualification being the finish. But really, it's like, that's not how you do that. It's like, we predict it was going to end that way, not that's what we wanted to do. So, what are they going to do tomorrow? Okay, Rollins is going to come out, if any. I mean, Rollins was a bloody mess after being Sister Abigail on the arena floor, concrete. He's spitting up tons of blood. I mean, it looked really fake, but yeah, what are they going to do? He's going to come out and be like, well, I barely got out. I still got the title. It's like, well, okay, so who's going to fight, Rollins next? Rollins already part of the Team Hogan at Crown Jewel. Yay. Don't get me started on that. Team Hogan versus Team Flair. No, thank you. TNA did that, 10 years ago? Oh my God, it's so terrible, so bad. So there we have it. That's the full recap of the Hell in a Cell show. Share with me your thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the show. I'm at a loss for words. I think the show was okay. It had its moments. The ending sucked. I think the best match of the night was Sasha versus Becky. They really left everything out there, and they put on a great Hell in a Cell match. It was only second Hell in a Cell match in history for women, and I think they did a damn good job. It was much better than the Charlotte versus Sasha one from 2 years ago. So I'm really happy about that. And yeah, the rest of the card was thrown on, as you heard. So there was no other build up to make you excited for any of these matches, and most of them were just the same matches you see on Raw or SmackDown. So what was the point? If you're only going to announce 3 or 4 matches, then just go with that. You could always fill stuff up with, or fill up time with, extra interviews or backstage stuff, or promo packages and such, or just put on really great matches that are 20-30 minutes each, and you can make it happen. Or don't do 5-hour pay-per-views if you can't put together enough great content. Go back to the 3-hour format. It's all good. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. As always, I'm always live tweeting during all WWE live stream network shows and specials, so check me out there. Everyone have a great night. I'll talk to you later. This is PCJ, the Pop Culture Junkie, signing out.